Hey everyone, I am here with my friend Christa, and it is so great to have her visiting me. She doesn't live close by anymore, so she's here visiting, and we've been talking about just some things that's happened in her past. And I realized that the story that is in her heart is something that you need to hear. So, first of all, when did we meet, Christa? How many years ago was that?
Gosh, we probably met 20 years ago.
Yeah, so long time. We've been friends a long time. We've been through a lot together. We have kids the same age. We used to go up to Breckenridge and ski all the time together. And we had had dinner together. I'll never forget. It was December 23rd. What year was that?
That would have been 26 years ago. 2015.
2015, so December 23rd, 2015, my three kids, her three kids. We're kind of doing an early Christmas celebration, and we give them a kind of a bon voyage off to their trip to Hawaii. But what happened in Hawaii?
So we took a trip in Hawaii. We left on Christmas Day on December 2015. We thought it would be fun to do a last trip before my daughter graduated from college as a family, because we knew things would get kind of crazy after that. So we headed to Maui, Hawaii, in which we had been there before, and the kids loved it, so we thought we'd go back. And we did, and it was great. We got there, and we settled into our hotel, and went out the first day and played on the beach in the waves, and had dinner, went home. Next morning, we woke up, so this was day 2 of our trip. We headed back to the beach, and we went to this special place called Malakini, which is a rock formation in Kanapali. No, it's not Malakini. It's with black rock, sorry. And so anyway, we went and jumped off the rocks and had a great time, and we decided after a while it was time to go have some lunch. So we come back, we all swim back to the beach, and we are rounding up our stuff, and our middle son, we have 3 kids, and our middle son wanted to jump back in one last time to get the sand out of his trunks before we headed to lunch. And so he did, and we're, kind of turned our back, but then we looked back and he wasn't coming, and we saw him. We looked out in the water, and he was face down in the ocean, and we thought, well, silly him, he must be looking for turtles or something. Well, and it just got longer and longer, and suddenly we're like, wait, this isn't right. No one can hold their breath that long. So my husband runs down to see what's going on and finds out he can't move. We didn't know what had happened, but he couldn't move. So people kind of were catching on to what was going on, and just a couple of guys stepped up and helped get my son out of the water, and called the paramedics, and they came, and he just lost all feeling from his nipples down. He had nothing. And so obviously something very tragic had happened. We still didn't know. The paramedics came, they whisked him off to the emergency room where we met him frantically, as you can imagine. And he was given an MRI there where we found out he had a C4-C5 break in his neck and was paralyzed. And we didn't know at the time, what his prognosis was. We were all just in shock. But my husband and I, they flew with him, took him to Queen's Hospital in Honolulu, which we were in Maui, so, an island away. And my husband and I, of course, went with him to Honolulu. We left our other 2 children, who were 21 and 16 at the time, in Maui by themselves in this crisis. They didn't know what was going on. They went back to the hotel. We went to Queen's Hospital in Honolulu. We were still in shock. Everybody was in shock. And my daughter was with my younger son, and he was just kind of shut down. And she was trying to tend to him and deal with him emotionally and physically, trying to get him to eat and all that kind of stuff. And we both spent the nights separate. They were in Maui, we were in Honolulu. Claire woke up the next day, just, beside herself, didn't know what was going on. We weren't communicating that well because we didn't really know what was going on at the time. But she got up the next morning knowing her brother was paralyzed and that she was alone with her younger brother, and said she was walking along the beach and praying. And she said, God, I just need a hug. I just need a physical hug right now. Sorry. Oh. And as she was praying, she hears her name called, Claire, Claire. And one of our neighbors from Evergreen, Colorado, which is where we were living at the time, happened to be on the beach at the exact time Claire was praying for this need for affection and, just some love. And ran over, and Claire was able to explain what was going on. And they just embraced her and hugged her, and just exactly what she was asking God for. Sorry. So what was significant about that is that in a time like that, you wonder, where is God? Why is this happening? What is going on? But it was really clear from that moment, which was less than 24 hours after the accident, that even though we had a long journey ahead with my son being paralyzed, God was with us. He was going to be with us. He was there at that moment. And he showed up along the way 100% of the time. And every time we needed him, he showed up. That was a very, very physical way he showed up, but he showed up in so many other ways as well. But to me, that was such a significant moment because it was so clear to me at that time that God was there. He was answering prayers, and he was going to walk this journey through us, which he has, and he did, and he still does today. So.
I mean, just think about this. I mean, you're on a beach in Hawaii, thousands of miles away from anyone you know, and her daughter says, God, I need a hug. And here's her name being called. Now,
immediately. As she's praying that, immediately.
That isn't coincidence, guys. And so I wanted Christa to share this story, and obviously it's emotional to both of us because it's such a real example that God is real. He does this. And the thing that's we have to understand, God is real and he shows up, but he doesn't always answer things the way we want it to be answered. Tommy he's living a beautiful life, but he is still a quadriplegic. And I can remember, as you're talking about this, what came to my mind is when my mom was having back surgery, and kind of this weird thing. I said to God, it'd be so cool if the day of her back surgery, if her favorite verse was sent to me. I was getting a daily email from K-Love radio station. I said, God, it'd be so cool if that, verse came through that day. 31,000 verses that morning of her surgery. Glance at my computer, forgetting that I had even said that to God, and in comes the verse, and it's her favorite verse. Today is the day the Lord has made. I will be glad and rejoice in it. And
I can add to that story.
Yeah.
Her mom was a little bit nervous about the back surgery, and she walks into the surgery room, and the two nurses who are attending her's names are Michelle and Nicole, who are her daughter's names. And she felt this perfect sense of peace, okay, God, you got this. You just, you brought these people. It wasn't a coincidence again.
Yeah, absolutely. And this verse comes in, and so you know he's there, but you know what? The back surgery wasn't a complete success. She's had issues. She had to have multiple surgeries, all this. But it's something about knowing he's there and knowing he's real, knowing he sees you, that you just go into the struggle differently. It doesn't necessarily change it. And Christa and her family, I know, do you remember the conversation you had, you, Adam, Steve, and when you made a choice?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they felt they had a choice here. So just tell a little bit about that story.
So we, again, we were all in shock. We were all so sad and so scared, so many unknowns. Our son is lying in the hospital, can't move, can't talk. He's on a ventilator, can't talk. And so the kids ended up flying to Honolulu on their way back to Colorado. So we all were able to get together and have one last moment together before they headed back to Colorado. And my husband, led by God, of course, we sat down at a table. I remember this vividly. And we all just kind of looked at each other with these, deer in headlights kind of looks. But my husband said, guys, we are a strong family. We can get through this. And we have a choice right now. We can either stall or we can thrive. And we need to make a choice. And we all sat around that table and we were like, we are going to address this with God, and we are going to thrive. We are going to make the best life for Tommy and the best life for each other. And we are going to, team together, and we're going to find our strengths and our weaknesses, and we are going to make this work. And we did.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
God was in all of that. It wasn't us. It was through him. We were able to do that.
And I think what really allowed them to thrive as a family was, one, they chose it. You think sometimes you're just the victim and you don't have a choice in this at all.
Yeah.
They had a choice to make. How are we going to move forward with this? But the other thing is, I think when tragedy hits, so often the natural tendency is to pull away from God, and you guys really leaned into him.
Yeah, we did. We had to. We had to, and we did. And it was just beautiful.
And I think for me, the biggest piece that has come from all of it is I have prayed with such intensity for Tommy to be healed. And I know God can, right? I mean, he could.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he hasn't. And you know what I know in my heart then? God will get more glory through Tommy in the situation he's in right now than he would if Tommy was healed. I'm not saying he'll never heal him. That could definitely still be coming.
Yeah.
But for right now, and God has gotten so much glory from their family. So many people have turned towards God because of the way they've responded. So I guess what I'm just wanting you to know, God is real. I can't, it's like so true, guys. He is real. He does do miracles. He does show up. And when you turn to him, he is not going to turn his back on you. Believe me, he's going to come and just kind of comfort you in a way that nothing else can.
Yeah, and I think that along with what Michelle just said, is just that God doesn't tell us our life is going to have troubles. He tells us that we all have troubles. They all look different, but we will have troubles, and he doesn't tell us we won't, but he does tell us he will be with us through them, and that is where I completely trust that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and experienced it.
All right, guys, so here's a couple stories just to help you to see how God is at work still in big, powerful ways. Thanks.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thanks, Christa.